jubilous as he was to receive the marja, he said to him, sorry, that I can't do. And I want you to walk in and I'll explain everything. So, he walks in, they sit down. He says to him, I had a partner, I'm a butcher, and I had this business partner who used to buy stuff for me from other towns and cities, or he used to bring the livestock over and I'd slaughter the animals and sell them as meat. And we were really close for a while. We were partners and we'd known each other for a long time. And I had a daughter who was at the ripe age of marriage. He had a son who was also young. So one day he comes up to me and says, old pal, we've been friends and partners for a long time. Now I want us to be relatives. I said, what do you mean? He said, I want to ask your daughter's hand in marriage for my son. I said, sure. So he went, and I suppose he went out to consult with, I guess, his family and so on. He came back a couple of months later, but he didn't mention the whole topic about his son getting married to my daughter. So I assumed that, well, maybe they're getting ready, they're not ready yet. He goes back, and he comes a few months later. Once again, he doesn't mention anything about it. It took about a year or 2 years until I heard that his son got married to someone else's daughter. I was obviously, very disappointed, but at the same time, I was wondering what had happened. Now, the neighborhood, for the duration of those 2 years, the entire neighborhood heard that my daughter was getting married to my partner's son. So no one came to propose for my daughter anymore because they knew that she was pretty much taken for 2 years. And then when they received news of my partner's son getting married to someone else, everyone assumed that there must have been something wrong with my daughter. That, we had started the proceedings for the marriage to take place, but it broke up. So there must be something wrong with either the guy or the girl. And so for 2 years no one proposed because she was taken, and thereafter no one proposed because they feared that something was wrong with this girl. This is my daughter. And he pointed to an old woman. She was probably in her 40s or 50s. She never got married. He said, later on I found out, after years passed, and I really didn't know what had happened. I didn't know why my business partner backed out of the whole proposal. So one day I heard that my business partner wanted to ask around and basically find out if my daughter was suitable for his son. Now, who better to ask than my own neighbor, who also happened to be the accountant and the personal aide of the marja of the time, Haji Ja'far. He went to Haj Ja'far. Haj Ja'far had his own son, and he wanted to ask this girl's hand in marriage for his son. So here's what he does. He says, my partner asked him, how well do you know your neighbors? He said, I know them well enough. And then I asked him about my neighbor's sons. He said, well, I don't know. Ask someone else. He didn't actually insult her. He didn't actually defame her. He didn't actually demean her. He didn't actually say that there was anything wrong with the girl. All he said was, I don't know. Ask someone else. Sometimes you could say things that could lead to devastating effects. Sometimes you choose not to say things which would in turn lead to devastating effects. Sometimes you pretend you know more than you do, and that would lead to devastating effects. Sometimes you act as if you know more than you do. It's all based on the intention. The man was trying to put him off, and so he said, I don't know. Now, for some reason, his son probably fell in love with someone else and married another girl. My daughter is the one who remained without a family, without a future, without a life. She's still living with us. Now, you want me, Sayyid, to forgive Haji Ja'far after all of what he's done? Look at my daughter and tell me if I should forgive him. So the Sayyid, Mirza Hassan al-Shirazi, looks at that merchant. And the merchant initially says to that man, he says to him, listen, I've seen Haji Ja'far. I know what he's going through. If you had seen him, you'd show a little more sympathy, a little more, you'd do something about this. Just forgive him and get it over with. So the Sayyid al-Shirazi says to the merchant. He says to him, do you really want to save Haji Ja'far? He said, sure. What I saw was absolutely shocking. It was the most traumatic experience in my life. This will haunt me for the rest of my life. He said, you want to help him? Or are you prepared to marry this girl? He said, whatever it takes. He said to the man, the father, he said, are you willing to give your daughter to this man? And in return, forgive Haji Ja'far for what he's done? He said, if you say so. They married, and Haji Ja'far was saved. But the truth of the matter is, brothers and sisters, one small gesture can sometimes be absolutely devastating. Just consider the consequences. Consider what results could come out of that gesture, that word, that movement, whatever it is. This step that I'm about to take, this journey that I'm about to embark on. Because one thing could lead to another. And in some cases, that one thing could bring death. It could bring eternal misery in the fires of hell for a person who was evidently very good. He was very good. The only mistake he made was that little gesture. I'm sorry, I don't know. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us and to give us the guidance in order to identify these areas of perplexity, these areas of detrimental sins, and avoid them, inshaAllah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.